It's definitely interesting. I mean, it's a basically new golf course from what it was before. It's not really at all the same. The greens, since they're new, are extremely firm, which I think makes it more challenging. It'll be tough to access some of the hole locations, and I think that we'll have a bit to learn in terms of golf course setup. But overall, we'll see how it plays. It's so new right now that it's really hard to tell exactly how. All I know is it's a way different. Hopefully, just make a few more birdies. More birdies and bogeys typically helps. Low scores. As far as the tournament goes, treating it like every other event. Not focusing on the starting strokes or anything like that. Just going out there and trying to execute and do my best, and not really thinking too much about the results. Really, the thing that was most different is the firmness of the greens. Just typically, most of the greens out here slope back to front, and you were all into the grain, and so you weren't really playing for a lot of balance on many of these holes unless you're in a really, really long club in. And now, I mean, they are extremely firm, especially the par threes. The par threes, I think, provide the most challenge because the run-ups to the short of the greens are still fairly soft, and so if you land it short, it's probably not going to be bouncing up, and if you land on the green, it kind of just hits and goes, and so there's going to be a real challenge to that. You're going to have to hit some shots that are pretty extraordinarily high in order to hold these greens. Yeah, I would agree with that. I think everybody's dealing with a little something at the end of the year. Like you said, it's been a long season, especially now with the way the new schedule is. It's really is a sprint to get here. There's not really places in the schedule to take large breaks. You have the beginning of the year where you're kind of getting, warmed up in a sense, even though you pretty much got to start the year ready to go. But then, March you have the Players, April Masters, May PGA, June US Open, July you have the Open Championship, and then you come to August and you got the FedEx Cup playoffs. So there's really not a time of the year where you're taking a break until, for us, after either the President's Cup or Ryder Cup. And so it definitely is a lot of a sprint, and I'm sure people got little aches and pains, but didn't play all year to just get tired at East Lake and kind of just throw in the towel. So, it's good competition this week. I think the golf course is going to be pretty challenging, and it should be a fun week. It depends how you want to describe it. If you want to just have a player that's playing the best at the end of the year, I think that the playoffs will definitely identify that player. In terms of the season-long race, it's not always going to be the guy that plays the best the whole season. It's going to be the guy that plays the best in these playoff events. And that's really what you're identifying, is the guy that plays the best in these last three events. And it's a format that's changed a bunch over the years, a few times, in terms of when it first got started, you had a year where I think it was Padraig Harrington won two majors and maybe didn't make the BMW, and I know he didn't make this tournament. And so arguably it wasn't really a great setup then, and then you change the points to be a little bit less valuable in the playoffs, but you still see a lot of volatility. Like you look at a guy like Keegan Bradley, who shows up last week and has a great week and wins the tournament, and now all of a sudden he goes from not being in East Lake to having a really, really great chance to win the FedEx Cup. And so I think it provides a little bit of volatility, which is good for the fans, and I think it's also good for some players that are didn't have their best years leading up to get into the playoffs and all of a sudden turn a year that's not their best into somewhat of a career year in terms of winning the FedEx Cup. So a lot of volatility, but at the end of the day, golf is golf, and the easiest way to solve an issue that you don't like in the game of golf is to play better. That's really all it comes down to in our game. Is at the end of the day, if you play good enough golf, it will take care of itself.